Kyle here from All Media Reviews, here to do this video. Will probably be 30 to 40 plus minutes long. Big 1995 albums of the year, rough draft video. So may as well get into it. There's a lot of, stuff I'm not going to remember, of course, and some stuff that I didn't include in my list. And like the first, at least 20, there's 39 listed here. The first, actually I forgot to insert that, so it actually is 40. But there's still a bunch that I still had a couple that I didn't even insert because I did listen to this recently. Okay, I'll have to put this here for now. Goes right after that one. It's a lot of CDs, and unfortunately there's a couple CDs that I thought I had that I didn't. I have sort of like a substitute and shoehorn stuff as substitutes. So stuff like Chris Isaak's Forever Blue, which I'm sure my wife has the CD if she doesn't have the vinyl. Though it's not the album that has, it's not the album that includes Wicked Game. I think that was a couple albums before that. But this band right here, Z-Lot Z, they're from Texas. Very like Queensryche-like, I guess, but I have not listened to, so I don't know where to put it. But I knew about this band, see their name frequently in the different book, the import companies, Impulse and Wildside Records, but I finally found a copy of this a few years ago at half price. But the album's called Tearing at Your Mind, which this is a reissue. I know, came out like in 2002 or something, but anyway. That will maybe be a future thing to include in here. Death Symbolic, #1 record on Rate Your Music from 1995. But I've never heard it. Again, all these Death albums I've never heard. Still kind of work in progress. Elliott Smith's self-titled album. I don't know if it's his first or second record, but I know his later records were more the sort of iconic, popular ones. Dark Tranquillity's The Gallery. Again, Dark Tranquillity, melodic death metal. I do like I have a few of their records, but a lot of their records kind of remind me of each other. They have the similar style. They're good at it, but it doesn't vary. But I mean, I haven't listened to nearly as many records as they have, but Mr. Bungle's Disco Volante, I was vowing, when I listened to the self-titled debut, that I would want to listen to that one. California's the one I really want to listen to more, because you can hear elements of that music in Pepe Deluxe, but haven't listened to it, unfortunately, but I need to. They're kind of the mixture of metal, like thrash metal and, lounge music and ska and everything else, but... And then Meshuggah's Destroy, Erase, Improve is another one that just the quick research I did that's not on my list. I'm very picky about Meshuggah. I like one of their releases, though. So another one that I didn't include, I put this, I think, on the 94 one. It was 95, the local band, Malicious Mischief, that opened for Queensryche in 97 when I saw them. But Tell It Like It Is. Again, I haven't gotten around to spending time listening to it. But anyway, Malicious Mischief. Anyway, so I think they're kind of like Queensryche from memory. So, alright, it goes starting with 40s, if I'm counting right, because I had two of the same on there. 33, 34, 35. Yep. Royal Hunt, Moving Target, which I think this is the debut album. I'm not sure about that. That's weird, because this says 98, but I know that this was listed as a 95 release. So, if it is 98... It was maybe released on Magna Carta in 98, but it originally came out in 95. I think Magellan, that same thing happened with a few other bands. But I never felt this record like the one after it, I believe, Paradox. That one's much better, but I like DC Cooper. I like him when he showed up on Shell Gallery's album, Tyranny. But anyway, that's why it goes this low. I haven't listened to this album probably in over 20 years, though. So, Moving Target, number 40 from Royal Hunt. Number 39, so I have a bunch of tribute albums in here. One of them is a Jimi Hendrix one, which is called In From the Storm. Tribute albums were sort of all the rage in the 90s, but they were beginning, including Magna Carta and the Zeppelin one that Kevin Gilbert was on, or was going to be on, but wasn't on. This one has Brian May, Carlos Santana, Sting, John McLaughlin, Taj Mahal, Tony Williams, Stanley Clarke, a lot of great players on it. And Doug Pinnick is on this. I forgot about that. I think Burning the Midnight Light. It's not the only Hendrix tribute he ever did, with and without King's X, but I'm pretty sure this came out, but I didn't hear it till many years after it, because I didn't even know King's X was in 95. And while I was a Hendrix fan, there were so many tribute albums. I probably have 25 or 30 tribute albums just officially released. It's kind of scary. They're things. Most cases you just listen to them once or twice and then don't go back to them. But occasionally they change your mind, like Kevin's stuff. So number 39, number 38. So everything bumped up for the first part of this. Alanis Morissette's "Jagged Little Pill." Yeah, it's sort of been played to death, you know, and she's become popular. She was just here a few weeks ago at this Yacht Rock, which is not really Yacht Rock, but Yacht Rock Club festival, just literally a couple miles from my house here in St. Paul. But of course, you ought to know, "Hand in My Pocket" and "Ironic" were the biggest, massive smash hits. And kind of, you know, the whole lyrical part about her, you know, the guy from Dave Coulier, and I just think some of the songs were catchy, but I had a friend that, like, we went down to Indianapolis to the Final Four when Minnesota was in there, and he was playing the hell out of this in '97. So I kind of got my fill of it and eventually bought it. I like it. I don't love it, but I know people that hate it. I don't hate it. You know, the songwriting's still good. Some of it's been overplayed, but, you know, it was her breakthrough and her one record that everyone knows her for. But "Jagged Little Pill" from Alanis Morissette. I kind of think the early Imogen Heap reminds me of it a little bit in some ways, so we're talking about that in future videos. So number 38. Number 37, again, 45-minute video. So, you know, search if you don't feel like listening to the lower part of this video. But anyway, The Police live. I have a bunch of live albums on this list. Yeah, it's a pretty, like, you know, stacked set list. And, of course, the CDs I don't even know if I have. But, and we had the video. I remember just my friend who loved The Police, we watched the video that came out with this. He's like, "Why is Sting foaming at the mouth?" But, I mean, from a set list standpoint, you know, The Police, they have more good songs than bad songs. You know, it has, you know, it was I know it was over the course of a couple different tours, or just one tour. It wasn't a reunion tour. The Police were long broken up at this point. Sting was on his own in '95. We had seen Sting live in '93. 10 Summer's Tales, but it's got Synchronicity 1 and 2, of course, back to back. Message in a Bottle, Most So Lonely. Some of the, I mean, the obvious, Bring on the Night. Some deeper tracks like Hole in My Life, Bed's Too Big Without You, Landlord. That's a deeper track. There's a couple songs that aren't on here, like Spirits of the Material World Doesn't Look Like, which is, to me, is an essential. But anyway. Decent live record, but I know people that, like, they bought it and then they got rid of it. This was a commonly purchased item that then people... And then it got issued on Record Store Day a few years ago, and people were kind of freaking out about it, but I don't know. You know, I love The Police, but, you know, listening to a live album, it's not my first choice. So that's number 30, whatever, number 37. Number 36, on to the string of obscure prog metal, including Zealot Z. Seventh Sign, Perpetual Destiny. I played a lot of this record. I think this was from Impulse. I got this, and it's like, you want a band that sounds like Queensryche and Fate's Warning, this is the band. And I really liked it, but at some point it lost its luster. But I still think it was a pretty strong record. I don't know if they did something. They did a record after this, and they did some live shows. I think they were from Denver, but yeah, I mean it wasn't generic enough. I mean, it was sort of between. It was not too generic because it. I mean, the singer was a good singer, but at the same, there were so many bands like this. Altura, Quiet Room. I'll be talking more about these obscure prog metal bands. Some of them played the Power Mad Festival and the Prog Power Europe before Prog Power USA existed. But anyway, I believe this is the debut album. Seventh Sign. They might have been talked about Metal Edge. This is like a Japanese import, so they got it from. I think it was Impulse from after they had moved to Roselle, Illinois. But Perpetual Destiny. I never even heard the title Perpetual Destiny. Thinking about like time and space and physics and stuff like that. Number 36, number 35. All right, so I slotted this in here. I only listened to it like twice, but of course Kevin Gilbert produced it and plays some keys on it, I think. But Tim Pierce is on it. It's Keith Emerson's Changing States. Mark Bonilla, of course. So it's a lot of people that played with Kevin. Jerry Watts, you know. R.I.P. Kevin, R.I.P. of course, Keith Emerson, but yeah, it was worth getting. I mean, I'm not obsessed with it. It's mostly instrumental. They wouldn't allow the label when he was recording, it wouldn't allow Kevin to sing on it. It's too bad, but mostly instrumental keyboards, but it's still pretty good arranged pieces. You know, I had two tracks I highlighted. Songs like Ballade or Ballade or Ballade, and The Band Keeps Playing. Those were the two. I don't know if Kevin's on everything. Well, he plays drums on it too. Choir director, track, tuba solo. So he's kind of on, but he produced it. So, or he mixed and engineered. So I think I showed this in a haul video, but you can see there. Changing States from Keith Emerson, number 36. Number 30, yeah, okay, so number 35. Yeah, number 35 rather. I'm finally caught up. Insert that. Number 34, another tribute album, the Pink Floyd Moon Revisited, off the Magna Carta label. Of course, this has the likes of Enchant and Shadow Gallery and Magellan, World Trade, Robert Barry, you know, who was with the band 3, the other band 3, you know, that Keith Emerson was with. But, you know, I mean, it's an interpretation. It's not an exact copy, but Cairo's on it too, of course. I wasn't as into this tribute as some of the other tributes, but, you know, because I was like, well, I get to listen to, you know, Dark Side of the Moon. It has Mike Baker, of course, from Shadow Gallery, R.I.P., so. The Moon Revisited from the various artists, Magna Carta label, number 34. Number 33, a record that I think I liked more when it came out, but I was listening to it today. It's definitely sleepy and kind of one note. Bruce Springsteen, it's not the E Street Band. He'd left, the E Street Band had basically departed. Ghost of Tom Joad, which, you know, is kind of like a fall to Nebraska in some ways. Singer-songwriter folk album, you know, sort of conceptual about the follow-up to Grapes of Wrath. I don't know because Tom Joad from Grapes of Wrath, but there's a couple decent tracks. The title track and Youngstown are the ones that I would, you know, sort of lean toward. But as a whole, I mean, this was like the first Springsteen album that I got after I got into him. But it was not anything I got attached to. I was busy listening to his 70s and some of the 80s albums. But, you know, it's okay. I think over time more people have appreciated it. But listening today, it's sort of just, yeah, it's him doing like a singer-songwriter. There's some organ in it. It's kind of nice. Or it kind of adds a little bit of, you know, like atmosphere. But for the most part, it's just lyrical, and it's not as depressing as Nebraska, but it's sort of in the same approach from a songwriting standpoint. It's just him and like mostly acoustic guitar and singing quiet. So number 33, number 32. So this had to go somewhere. It probably should go higher, but it's just really one track. I know there's a couple extra tracks on it, but it's the Kashmir EP, of course, from Kevin Gilbert, which the Kashmir version is just fantastic. It's, you know, he made it his own. So yeah, I mean, I probably should put it higher just because this one track is fantastic. It has a couple bonus tracks. I remember when I did the series on Thud, I was talking about that. I ripped it on my computer, but it actually has it on the back. Goodness Gracious and Waiting and Joytown. Yeah, the different versions. So, but yeah, the Thud EP. It's just an EP, of course. Number 32 from Kevin Gilbert. Not Thud, the Thud EP, the Kashmir EP rather. Thud EP. Well, we have the acoustic EP, the Kashmir EP from Kevin Gilbert. Number 32. Number 31, an album that I maybe have listened to once or twice too. Another Flower Kings, because I won all their CDs. The Back in the World of Adventures. Not an album people reference, although I'll say this, at least I think from a length standpoint, this one isn't quite as long. It only is maybe about an hour. Some of these Flower Kings albums are doubles, you know, but I think it's their second album after that. Maybe this is the debut, official debut. I think it might be, because the Flower King was a Roy and Stolt album. So, Back in the World of Adventures, the Flower Kings. Number 30, whatever that was, 31. All right, number 30, again, another record, a live album. So, like we had the Police live. Now, this is actually from a current tour, though. Pulse, of course, this is the one, the original one. I have a sticker from 99 when I was at Best Buy, but I bought this the summer of 95. And this thing, the battery was blinking for better part of a few years at least. It has all of the Dark Side of the Moon, so we get the Moon Revisited and get this. We're getting our fill of Pink Floyd and the Dark Side specifically. It does have some other stuff, like Astronomy Domine was a highlight. A lot of the stuff from the Division Bell tour, like What Do You Want From Me? Keep Talking, Coming Back to Life. Hey You, of course. High Hopes is another song from the Division Bell. Sorrow. So you get some of the Momentary Lapse stuff too. You know, but I'm, you know, after what Dark Side was over, there's some other stuff on here. I forgot about that. It's got Comfortably Numb, Run Like Hell. You know, obvious choice. Wish You Were Here. But yeah, I mean, I'm a Floyd fan. It's a live album. I'm not a massive fan of their live albums, but You know, at the time, this is sort of almost the peak of my Floyd fandom, and you know, I think was it Tony Levin who was the live bassist? He might have been at this point still. But you know, Rick Wright. We had Rick Wright in the band, of course, at this point. So, Pulse, you know, famous live album. You know, they've released some other live albums since, of course, too. But number 30, number 29, back to prog metal, obscure prog metal, and the Impulse Company. When they were here, I got this. The Believe album from the second album from Without Warning, New York's own prog metal bands. I believe John Petrucci's name is in the book, but it's called Believe. I mean, this kind of taught me, yeah, there's a lot of other bands doing prog metal besides Dream Theater, and like I think I wasn't even into Fate's Warning when I actually got this. I was just discovering Fate's Warning, but if I'm not mistaken, there's some Japanese. It's all Japanese, and John Petrucci's name's in here, but. You know, they were really big in Japan. Of course, Dream Theater were big in Japan, like, from the get-go. So, bands that were influenced by them and doing prog metal. But there's a few tracks on this album that I've always highlighted. I don't know if it's my favorite. I mean, their 3 records all have, like, 3, 4, 5 songs. Even though, you know, it's prog metal, you can sort of predict in some ways. The singer doesn't sound like LaBrie. He's got a more gruff voice, although they were doing... This is coming off Awake, but... Deepest Dreams... Believe in Me, Envisioned. Envisioned's one of my favorite. And Evil Needs. You know, they have a keyboard player. They're doing kind of heavier riffs and stuff like that. And I know, like Petrucci was like, he knew the guys. I don't know if he even, like, maybe endorsed them or... The guy was playing one of his guitars or something like that. Ted Berger, I think, was the guitarist. But Jack Belletta, the singer. But anyway, Without Warning, number 29, Believe. Number 28, Screaming Headless Torsos. I think it's a self-titled album. Jazz, kind of quirky jazz fusion, a big influence on like Christopher Gildenlow, and a lot of the Pain of Salvation fans are big fans. I know that also Hiromi worked with David Fuczynski and he's done other stuff, but this is his primary band. They're mostly known as a live band, Screaming. It's fusion, it's jazz fusion, but it's almost Zappa-esque in some ways. Back about 20-some-odd years ago, there were people that are obsessed with this band on some of the message boards, but I haven't listened to it since. We're finding some live MP3s. There's probably videos of Screaming Headless Torsos, but yeah, I think this is their one proper studio album that that I knew of at the time when I checked them out. Number 28, number 27, Michael Jackson's His Story. My wife, I don't think she doesn't have the vinyl, but it did come on vinyl like in 2018, but she might have the CD. This album, like the previous record, Dangerous, has some really good tracks, and in fact, it has probably my favorite Michael Jackson song in Earth Song. It has some other songs like They Don't Really Care About Us. That's really progressive in a lot of ways too, the rhythms. But the other thing about Earth Song, and I think that song as well, some of those songs, it has like the Toto guys. Of course, they played on Thriller. They may have played on the other records, but it also has Guy Pratt. But yes, Steve Porcaro, Bill Bottrell also produced it. So there's a lot of prog connections and progressive pop connections. What About Us chanting on that song? I know Kimber even covered it live once, that song, They Don't Really Care About Us. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were involved in this album. And then Trevor Rabin and Slash are both on several tracks playing guitar, which is interesting. But then you get some rapping. He was trying some rapping. And of course, the first disc is all like sort of a best of, which doesn't have a few of his better songs. It doesn't have Smooth Criminal, but it's like Past, Present, and Future. Book 1, it was supposed to do another one. He never did another one, I don't think. But the second disc is really good. Tabloid Junkie was a track that I really like. It's got a New Jack Swing element. It's very danceable, and they use samples. Very political and social lyrics. You know, just because I'm in a magazine, just because the TV screen doesn't make it factual, you're so damn disrespectable. It's kind of like the paparazzi, really. That was before Princess Di, of course, passed away, and this came out. There's a song called Too Bad, which includes rapping from, of all people, Shaq, but it has Biggie. Biggie's on that, and it's also on, what was the other one? DS. Was it? No, This Time Around, actually. But then there's a song called DS, which has Slash and Rabin. It's got a groove to it, but it's a reference to this lawyer, Dom S. Shelding. Or Dom S. Shelding is a cold man. It's a reference to this lawyer, Tom Sneddon. Maybe to do with like influenced by the LA riots or some kind of, you know, oppression, you know, mistreatment of, you know, African Americans. But he was he repeats that Dom S. Sheldon is a cold man. Dom S. Sheldon is referencing the term Tom Sneddon. I don't know. That's what Wikipedia at least lists. Also, the song "Scream" includes "The Services of Janet," which was a single, and I actually really kind of like that. It's very experimental. The rhythm's kind of, very addictive at points. But yeah, I like this album. But at the same time, it has a lot of his sort of sappy ballads, and it's a bit much, and so it didn't go quite as high. Number 27, History. Number 26. We got Yes, again, the tribute album, another the Tales from Yesterday, which includes, the Stanley Snail Band, which is Kevin Gilbert and Mike Keneally and what's his name that's in the bass player, which I'm spacing. I don't have the booklet, of course, but I got. It has a track from Enchant, has a track from Shadow Gallery, a lot of the Magna Carta bands. I listened to the hell out of this thing in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it really got me into Enchant and Shadow Gallery. Magellan's on here, Steve Morse. It's got a great roster of bands, and I find that the version Enchant does of Changes is different. I really love that song. I don't love a lot of stuff on 90125, but yeah, I know it's on vinyl, and I have a vinyl that has the tracks, but not this issue, but it's like a compilation. But of course, again, the Kevin Gilbert factor pushes it. That version where it's like an exact replica, and then they go into Heart of the Sunrise at the very end. But kind of a joke, but they replicated it perfectly. It's not going to be an interpretation; it's going to be an exact replica. You can't really tell it's actually someone else. You think it sounds like Yes. Of course, it also has Turn of the Century, which that was the first time I ever heard Annie Haslam, and later checked out Renaissance. That has Steve Howe, though. Steve Howe wasn't a member of Yes at this point, though, which is kind of weird, or maybe the time, but it's like Steve Howe doing a tribute to himself on Turn of the Century. But so that's number 26, right? Number 25, Van Halen's Balance. This is the tour I saw them on, the Van Hagar, of course, Van Halen. The last Van Hagar album, actually, wouldn't really realize at the time, but they had the one record after that with Gary Sharon, and then the reunion album with Roth in the 2000s, late 2000s, but it was 2012 actually. This has a lot of good songs on it. Aftershock, Seventh Seal is kind of very riffy. Can't Stop Loving You was a poppy single. I like this album. I haven't listened to it in a long time. Amsterdam was another one I liked on it. I mean, for the last album, it might be. I like 5150 most, but it might be my second favorite Van Hagar record, actually, because it has more of a 90s sound. It has a modern sound. They don't go too keyboard heavy, even though I like a lot of the keyboards what Van Halen uses. But of course, the real striking cover art, which the Siamese twins are two girls that were born here right around that same time in Minnesota, but I think it was a little earlier. It's like 5 years earlier than that. But anyway, yeah, Balance, good record, but I haven't listened in a long time. But I just lost my place here. Where did it go here? Number 25, number 24. Now, this is the thing I was searching for, and it depresses me. Really obscure band, though. I was listening to some of the tracks today, and it reminded me a lot of When Dream a Day Unite, but I'm going with this band called Metropolis from Holland. Their album Behind Mysterious Walls. This is an American band called Metropolis. I had two of the Metropolis, the Holland or Denmark. I think they're from Holland, the Netherlands band. The singer's good. The production is lacking, but it's on YouTube. If you like prog metal, you like 90s prog metal. I mean, I thought this was better than Without Warning, actually. I was like, why are everyone talking about the time Superior and some of the other prog metal bands and Andromeda, and they don't know who Metropolis is. But then there's this band that I probably listened to this thing once. I have no idea what this sounds like, but this actually came out the year before. But Metropolis, Behind Mysterious Walls, I got a lot of mileage on that CD. There's a couple songs on it that Walls of Mystery, and I forget the other one. I was listening to it earlier today. I'd have to find my history. There it is, right there. I mean, it's, it barely was ever, it's only 6 tracks, but it's 35, 40 minutes. Impossible Dream, It's just, I like the keyboard arrangement. I guess you could say if you really love When Dream a Day Unite, you'd probably like this. The singer is a little bit deeper than Charlie Dominici, but anyway. Number 24, Metropolis, Behind Mysterious Walls, the debut album. Metropolis from, I believe it's Holland. Number 23, Anecdote, and I can thank Impulse Music for that one, too. Anecdote Nucleus, who I saw at Nearfest in the year 2000. 2000? I think it was 2000. Yeah, the second album from them. I was listening to this today, and I like it, although they're a little obsessed with the noise. They used to be a King Crimson tribute band rather, and then they started writing their own music. They're from Sweden, just like a lot of bands that were influenced by Crimson in the prog scene. Book of Hours is the epic. I like, there's a few, like the first two tracks, Nucleus and Harvest. It's noisy, kind of Primus influence, and the Crimson thing. But then the subtle, like kind of mellotron and cello arrangements make some of the music stand out here. There's some nice violin on it. Some of it's very sad, but the dynamic, they like to be really punchy and loud and noisy, and then they kind of get soft. It's almost like Opeth in some ways, which we'll talk about. But This Far From the Sky has a quiet part in the middle that really stands out, I found. But anyway, Nucleus from Anecdoten from Sweden, number 23. Number 22, going with Opeth's Orchid, the debut full-length album from Opeth, of course, which the only member was Michael Ackerfeld, who would go on to basically be with them a few albums later. Dan Swano produced this, and actually listening to this on Spotify, it sounds pretty damn good. For a debut album, I don't even have a physical copy, but the reputation for this record, Orchid, is being more raw. It is, but it isn't. I mean, there's one song in here, let's see here, the title track reminds me of Night on Brocken from Fate's Warning. And then there's the song Forest of October. Midway through, gets really good. Twilight is My Robe. The intro sounds like an Iron Maiden thing. So they have their originality with the growling, of course. They really emphasize the growling. They have some piano even at some points here, but the guitar syncopation stands out. I mean, it's a pretty good debut album. I've slept on it because I've listened to it. Last time I listened to it was sometime in the 2000s. Because I've always looked at the Opeth albums. Even Morning Rise and, really starting with Still Life. My Arms Are Hers, although I have My Arms Are Hers both on vinyl and CD. But anyway, number 22, Orchid from Opeth. Number 21, another live released. And again, I haven't listened to this really since probably the point I bought it. It's like an EP, really. It's Jeff Buckley's, one of many live releases I've got from him, like probably a dozen or like 8 or 9. Live from Bataclan. I don't think I have this on vinyl, so I'm just showing the CD. But, it's got Dream Brother, The Way Young Lovers Do, and then a medley, and Hallelujah. So it's really just an EP, but if you want to get into Jeff Buckley, you have to get into his live recordings. This is one of the better ones, even though it's just 4 or 5 songs. So number 20, another live album. Live in Japan from Savatage, the Zach Stevens era, of course, the tour for Handful of Rain, really. It has chants on it. They do not do the crazy vocal section, unfortunately, but being a new Savatage fan, I had to get into this. Actually, this says it came out in 94 and it was distributed in 98. But it's listed as 95. So again, these years are never fully accurate in the 90s. But, I mean, it has a lot of the stuff from Edge of Thorns. Zach was the vocalist. I don't know if there's any singing. I don't remember any singing from John Olivon here. But, Chance, Castles Burn, He Carves a Stone. So, basically the previous 2 records, because this came out before their new record, I believe. The title track from Handful of Rain. And then they did Sirens and Gutter Ballet, of course. So it's got a good set list. The only downside, it'd probably be higher if you got the full version of Chance, but, reproducing all those vocal lines, it's got to be a bit of a chore for them if they ever did it. I don't know if they ever did it live, did the full, all those, the Queen Bohemian Rhapsody thing, So number 18, finally get to show a little vinyl, I have it on CD, of course. The debut album from Self, Matt Mahaffey's, project, which revisited again this week. It's a good album. But I mean, it's more raw, but it has a lot of moments, a lot of tracks I enjoy. It's there's more of a Weezer / Beck influence on this than some of the other records, although the one after it is similar. But among my favorites, Sophomore Jinx, Stewardess. Let's see here. I wrote a ton of notes down. Stewardess has this catchy chorus. I'm going to reach my destination, and as a matter of fact, it's got a very catchy chorus. Some vocal distortions used in it. So the song So Low has these rapping lyrics, but it works with this groove. Love the bridge on that with the piano. There's a lot of bridges with piano on this. That's where it doesn't sound like Weezer and a lot of punk, because he uses the piano, or even a lot of grunge per se. Marathon Shirt is really trippy. It sounds like a water washing machine. I love that track. It's catchy, including some piano. They're jazzy in the bridge, and there's some trumpet included. Mist Friction got a great solo. Mother Nature's Fault, very catchy at points with a grungy guitar. The grunge doesn't kill it. Big Important Nothing is very jazzy. Lovely piano on that. Very dreamy vocals. This time you're over your head. This time you're in over your head. Yeah, he's over your head. He stresses the word head. Offbeat staccato. Yeah, there's some breakbeat and hip hop elements in this, but as a whole, I know why a lot of people consider this their favorite. There's a lot of charm to this debut album, and Matt still sounds great. So, Subliminal Plastic Motive. I said the title of it. Number 20. What number? Number 20. Number 18. Number 17. Let's see here. I hope I didn't skip over something. Did I miss something? Yeah, that was supposed to be 8. This is 19. I missed it. Supper's Ready, the Genesis tribute album that includes Kevin by name, the Chant guys, Magellan, Shadow Gallery guys, of course, but of course it has Kevin's cover of Back in New York City, which my CD now just went off the case, but which is on the covers CD from Kevin Gilbert, but it has, I never heard a lot of Genesis songs. It has Annie Haslam, of course, doing Ripples. You know, it's just a great collection. It's got Crack the Sky, I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe. John Goodsoul and Mike Zentner, Carpet Crawlers. Undertall from David Henschel and Jay Tausig. Robert Barry's on a lot of these, of course, but Richard Sinclair for Absent Friends. It's a good mix of the Phil and the Peter stuff, mainly for the cast and the arrangements. I mean, Back in New York City is the price of admission alone. So anyway, flip that was 19. I just talked about 18, which was Self. So number 17, we got White Willow, the second album, I believe, from them. Ignis Fatuus, which when I got into White Willow, it was around the time of the record after this, Sacrament, which I got the vinyl recently, but it's a different singer, but I like a lot of this. There's a couple tracks on here. Snowfall, very prog folky, but I'll admit that listening to it, some of it almost sounded like they're basically doing a tribute to Trespass era Genesis, like 12-string guitar and very acoustic and cello mellotron, very dreamy but bubbly synths. But the songs, the two tracks that stand out the most to me are Now in These Fairy Lands and The Withering of the Bows. There's one section in The Withering of the Bows that sounds like Dream Theater's Learning to Live. Yeah, it's fun, it's happy, it's very uplifting. There's flute, some bubbly synths, a harpsichord, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's great. There's both male and female vocals from this album. The band, White Willow's from, I believe they're from Norway. So, because they were kind of like going into the metal direction later, but the Norwegian black metal and stuff like that, but they weren't Norwegian black metal. Number 16. All right, this is a very oddball CD that I got. I never saw the film. I don't think so. But it's titled Vampiros Lesbos Sexadelic Dance Party. But what this is very jazz fusiony and very like kind of world music. There's like sitar throughout it. It's a soundtrack to a horror movie that was filmed. I think it was like in Denmark, somewhere in Eastern, like in Scandinavia. But in 69. Early 70s, I think it was 69, but the actual soundtrack wasn't released, at least on CD, until 1995. So, yeah, I like this. I wrote a review on Rate Your Music back in 2010 about it. If I can find it, I could just read it off quickly. If I can do this, let's see here. A bit long, but the progressive and psychedelic sides of this soundtrack don't meander much, if at all. The sitar and trumpet are among the parts I enjoy the most. Maybe a bit of an undiscovered and lost gem. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if I'd give it 4 stars now, but I bought this in 2009. You can see the sticker on there at Cheapo. Number 15, number 16, number 15, a record I listened to today, and I have been sleeping on this. I've always liked this album. King Crimson's Thrack. I mean, it's not a perfect record, but this album's a great mixture of some, percussion. Of course, this is the first album of the double trio. What exactly happened to my jewel case here? I don't know. But the first album, after like 10 years, of course, they come back. But it's got, of course, Dinosaur was a single, Walking on Air, People, and One Time. Those are like the catchiest, memorable tracks. But there's a lot of like great percussive soundtrack-like parts. I mean, it is a redefinition of their sound, of course, but I never have been as... I don't have as much, like, good, like, positive foray with the two following records, but this one, and people among the later, like, the most recent, the last 30 years Crimson, they think of this record first normally. I have the Deja Vroom, of course, DVD, which you can actually get like 3 different versions. You can mix and match versions of 21st Century Schizoid Man. But yeah, I mean, this is a very good record. I mean, I'd buy it on vinyl if I could get it. I'm sure it's expensive as hell, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's better than like some of the classics like Red and Starless and Bible Black and probably In the Court. But I would put it in the top 5 for sure after revisiting it today. This is I like this better than any of the 80s Crimson, which I'm going to go see that tour with, what's his name, with Danny Carey and Steve Vai in October. But yeah, Thrack, very good record from King Crimson, number 15. Number 14, in some ways I'd almost put that ahead of this, but Faith No More's, you could say the first record without Jim Martin. You had Trey Spruance, King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime. I've always liked this album, and when I first got into Faith No More in the early 2000s, that was really when I knew about them earlier than that, but I didn't start really getting... This is the one I was, like, listening to... I wanted to get into the most, and the title track is the best song on here. It's the most progressive. I have to admit, it's kind of hit and miss. They were trying to do a little too much of the sort of, new metal rap rock stuff at points, and some of the guitar work is just kind of hit and miss. You can tell there's a difference between Jim Martin and Trey Spruance. That being said, the jazzy and the ballads, the jazzy moments and the ballads, the loungy stuff, I still am a sucker for. Like, Evidence is great. The single Ricochet is good. The Gentle Art of Making Enemy gets kind of all over the place, but, Star A.D., Digging the Grave is another highlight, but, I don't know, it's a bit long. It's almost like, I think, over an hour, but I wrote a whole boatload of notes down, but I don't have time really to go through all of them. I mean, it's less prog. I mean, I thought Angel Dust sort of refined the style. I think they were just kind of doing whatever they wanted. I don't know if Jim Martin's influence was a reason why they kind of like decided, well, we can do more. We can stretch out and do a bunch of, rapping on this. What was it? There's one part, that nice bass line. Everything is spinning. We're on the ground. Refrain. The staccato and the triplets. Spacey guitar textures. Kind of like Ocean Size. I'm thinking of there's a Southwest. Take This Bottle. Yeah, Take This Bottle is a nice piano ballad. It's a good record. I just feel like among the 3 sort of classic, I mean, you could say Album of the Year could maybe go in there, but I've always looked at it a little bit lower. It's not as consistent. It's more hit and miss. It's more uneven, I guess you could say, compared to definitely The Real Thing and even, I would say, Angel Dust. But it's still a good record. And King for a Day, the title track is very, like, sort of majestic and very... The build on that, it definitely always works for me. And I know it has a big influence on Daniel Gilmour. There's one song with Gilmour, I always think it was either the title track to The Real Thing or the title track to that. He admitted to totally almost ripping off with Pain of Salvation. But anyway, number 14. Number 13, I don't have a copy at this point, but Tears for Fears, Raoul and the Kings of Spain. I've listened to this years ago, probably about 10 years ago, and I hadn't gone back till yesterday. This has a lot of good music on it, and even though this is basically like the last record, the one that after Kurt Smith left, Elemental. I have it right over here, I believe. This is the second record without Kurt Smith. I think it's like a Roland Solar record. There's just there's one song on here, Sketches of Pain, flamenco. That totally works from very, very. I just love flamenco when it's done well. Very sad, but catchy and riffy. The piano. There's really pretty piano in the chorus. But the title track is good. Falling Down, very atmospheric and sad at points. That song, let's see, Falling Down has a reunion with the vocalist Oleta Adams, who had been on Seeds of Love. So that's kind of cool reunion. God's Mistake has a great guitar solo. Yeah, I've kind of slept on this record too, Raoul and the Kings of Spain. I think it's better than Elemental. It's not as good as Seeds of Love, and it's not as good as Songs from the Big Chair, but, oh man, it's a really good record. Raw and the Kings of Spain. Number 13. Number 12, The Gathering. I think this is the... No, this isn't the day. The first album with Anneke van Giersbergen. You know, another band from Holland. Marillion. So, I love a lot of this. They call it gothic metal, female-fronted gothic metal. It's progressive. It's very atmospheric. The bass, you know, MO of The Gathering sound when they're doing kind of different... They're using textures and very, you know, very atmospheric. You know, Emotion number 1, Emotion number 2, the title track. Anneka's great. She's got a great voice, very emotional. I mean, I could say there's nothing like amazingly over the top, but the whole thing flows really well. There's one song that reminds me of Menomina, which is weird. I don't know Menomina, I've never heard of The Gathering, but one song that reminds me a little bit of the Tea Party, slide guitar. There's some slide guitar. I want to say Sand and Mercury. But there's Lee's very ritualistic. There's pretty clean guitar in that in the middle with like fretless bass. Yeah, to call these to say these guys weren't prog or progressive or at least art rock is wrong. They are, even though they're kind of described as metal. You know, Emotion number 1 has this swooning atmosphere that the line she keeps on makes me cry. Yeah, it's sort of depressing, very melancholy. You know that their whole shtick is being atmospheric and also being sad. But it works for me. So, yeah, The Gathering's Marillion number 12. Number 11. All right, we get a jazzy kind of record here. The collaboration between Stanley Clarke, Al Di Meola, and Jean-Luc Ponty, Rite of Strings, acoustic album. I love a lot of this record. I played this on the radio back in the day. I can't really, you know, I'm going to say I had notes on my original, but I know there's some fretless bass on here. There's some synths, but it's not like fast, like technical, but it's very atmospheric for jazz. It's like atmospheric jazz, like atmospheric acoustic jazz. But the songs don't get boring. This is in my top 20 jazz-related records for sure. And I think it's one of the best things, if not the best thing that I've ever heard from Jean-Luc Ponty, actually. So yeah, so you get the two guys from Return to Forever reuniting, of course, Di Meola and Stanley Clarke. So. The Rite of Strings, you know, I don't know if it's the right. They actually play the Rite of Spring in here, and they think they reference it maybe Song to John. There's a John Coltrane, you know, homage. Renaissance. That's a Jean-Luc Ponty piece. So each one of them has their own. But yeah, I love this thing. It's kind of less is more. It's only like 35 or 40 minutes. So the Rite of Strings, number 11, number 10. I'd like to get it on vinyl. I don't know if it ever got issued. Probably did. Not cheap. Number 10. Yeah. Okay. Porcupine Trees, The Sky Moves Sideways. I know a lot of people that don't like the early Porcupine Tree, and of course the original came with a drum machine. I don't know if I've got this. The vinyl, I think, was the version that actually was re-recorded with Gavin Harrison, but I like the riffs. The riffs are heavy and punchy. To say that they didn't use heavy riffs is wrong. And I like the space rock, and it flows for the most part. I know Moonloop is like 22 minutes, but Stars Die... There's a lot of, there's some samples. It's the early, you know, space rock, you know, psychedelic Porcupine Tree, and I actually like it for what it is. I don't like latch on to specific tracks. I don't get addicted to it, but for the right mood, it works, and that's why it goes this high. I was expecting to get bored by it, and I wasn't. I listened to this a couple weeks ago. Number 10, number 9. All right, so sadly I don't have a booklet for this, but I have the CD in the jewel case. Shadow Galleries Carved in Stone, which probably has the most. Maybe the most popular, most catchy song they ever wrote, although that's sort of, I can argue that for other songs, but for a Crystalline Dream. But every one of these songs, it's weird how like they did the track list here. War Cry, the riffs, the vocal harmonies, R.I.P. Mike Baker, he's a fantastic singer. I hated him at first and grew to love him. Cliffhanger. It's prog metal, and they were very unique. I mean, some of it sounds like Yes, but some of it sounds very much of their own thing. You can tell they're influenced by Rush and Queensryche and Queen, but I still find that they had something really unique, especially these early records they did. Well, I mean, pretty much all the records. The criticism, you have the Ghost Ship epic with, you know, it's 21 minutes and it's a suite, really. The thing I've always, like, had an issue with this album is that between every track, it's not listed here, there are these little intervals, which it's fine sometimes, like Mew did it, and it gets to be a bit much. I think they would flow better if they just attached them on the end, or they didn't even have them. But that, you know, Don't Ever Cry, just remember, there's so many memorable parts, so many vocal parts. Alaska's a great ballad. I think of Alaska, I always, like state songs, I always think of that track. So, Carved in Stone from Shadow Gallery. A lot of the fans, like everyone who likes Shadow Gallery likes that album. Not everyone thinks it's their favorite, but everyone likes that album. Likes this album. I think other people favor other records. They kind of hit and miss. Like I personally favor the debut, despite the drum machine. But Queen of the City, Vice, and everything like that, of course. That's number 9. Number 8, a favorite actually, and it probably could go even a little higher, you know, give or take. But Devil in the Details from Saigon Kick, the best Saigon Kick album for my money. Even though, you know, Matt Kramer's not on it, the second album with Matt Kramer, really kind of the last sort of like great proper record. They had the Bastards record after this, but oh my god, I listened to this a few weeks ago, so just jogging my memory. Russian Girl, Spanish Rain, Killing Ground. Russian Girl is so catchy. It's so like, and Spanish Rain is gorgeous. It's so like mesmerizing. Want to listen to something on a rainy day, you're sad about something, put on Spanish Rain. It's so pretty. There's a couple others that I wrote down here. There's like Going On is great. Everybody, kind of grungy but still good melodic groovish. Everybody's Doing Fine. Everybody's Doing Time. Flesh and Bone has heavy riffs. Sunshine, funky riff like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but the harmonies are like Jellyfish or the Beach Boys. Sunshine's one of the best Saigon Kick records. If I were to do like a top 10 Saigon Kick tracks, it would be in the top 5 probably. Victoria's super happy, jazzy pop, lead piano. The second half of this, I think it gets better. It's weird. Afraid's like 90s alt rock. So Painfully is a power pop guitar riff that works. Edgar's very dreamy and atmospheric, an acoustic ballad. Here I Am, Lead Girl. Here I Am, Lead Girl. Here, Edgar. He says, yeah, I mean, the whole record isn't perfect, but this is easily 4 stars, and it just, you know, it's, yeah, they were kind of hair metal, but they were moving in other directions, adding little power pop and melodic and progressive elements. It's not a surprise that Jason Bieler, who was the guitarist, of course, and then the singer at this point in the band, went on to do prog, although I can't say his songwriting doing prog is as good as this at this point that I've heard. But anyway, Saigon Kick, number 8, with Devil in the Details. Please issue it on vinyl. I want that sucker. I still don't even have Lizard on vinyl. So, alright, this is a little sacrilege because I don't have the booklet. I don't think I have the booklet, but Dream Theater's A Change of Seasons EP. I have the back jewel case. I don't have the CD or I must have lost it, but as much as my favorite Dream Theater song is the actual demo to this, the early demo, the Please Don't Go, this is still a great epic 23-minute piece. I can't deny that. I've listened to it probably 500 times. I used to go golfing and listen to it. We were driving down when I was listening to Alanis Morissette. We also listened to this. My friend got to hear it. But yeah, it's great. It does sound, the production's obviously a step up from that demo in a lot of ways, but the arrangement still is good. I don't like it as much, but it's still in my top 10 Dream Theater songs. It's, to me, Change of Seasons has always been like them writing like a Tales from Tropic Oceans meets Rush, like epic, basically. Of course, you get the big medley, which I've heard hundreds of times too. But good medley. I mean, I like some of these versions by other people more. But anyway, that's number 7. Number 6. All right, Savatage, Dead Winter Dead. I listened to this again today. Oh my God, this is a great record. And as much as I still like Handful of Rain more, it might be my second or third favorite. There's a lot of really good tracks on this sucker. This isn't what we meant. I mean, besides, of course, Sarajevo 1224, Christmas Eve. That's Carol of the Bells, which everyone knows from Trans-Siberian Orchestra. This is before TSO actually existed, though. But this is the time. Starlight, Mozart Madness into the instrumental, but oh my God, there's some other ones. It's about the Bosnian. It's like a fictional story with a gargoyle in a town in Croatia, like the Bosnian. Croatian War, you know, right around that whole thing was going on in Serbia. Yeah, Al Pitrelli took over for Alex Golan. Alex Golan was like a hired gun, one-off, although I think he's on the Live in Japan CD. But Al Pitrelli's guitar solos are really good on a lot of these tracks. Doesn't matter any. We've got a few John Oliva songs on this, which I like. I don't love, but I like. Memory has the Dead Winter Dead intro, references Dead Winter Dead intro references Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, but then One Child, great piano section with Zach vocals midway through. I will believe in you if you want me to, and we're no longer alone. And then Not What You See is a great closer. Oh, this Dead Winter Dead is fantastic. It isn't a concept album, almost like a rock opera, but unlike Streets, it doesn't get too cheesy. I'll say though, again, I can't say I like it more than Handful of Rain. The record after it, I probably have listened to more, but oh man, this is fantastic. Zach sounds fantastic on this. And Edge of Thorns is the other one. Is it better than Edge of Thorns? I kind of think it is, maybe a little bit. It's splitting hairs. So number 5, we got echolyn, the best echolyn, really the only echolyn record I really like a lot. I like the previous one, I've revisited it, but this album, As the World, a lot of people love it. I got a couple of the guys to sign, one of the guys to sign it there when I saw him at Nearfest in 2002. It's got the song Never the Same, which is just sad, one of the saddest songs ever. But of course the title track, it's, you know, the songwritings were fine. It's proggy, but not too proggy. Of course the singer, Chris Busby, always reminds me of Maynard from Tool, but I like this record a lot. I can't find anything wrong with it. I mean, it's a long record, but I don't find it overstays its welcome. That's why it's this high. It's like 3 different parts, really. Letters, you know, you can see like 3 different parts here. Kind of like Extremes, 3 Sides to Every Story, but always the same. The Cheese Stands Alone. There's a million little fun parts in this record. I didn't have time to even write it all down. I only listened to about half of it a couple weeks ago, but anyway, As the World by echolyn, number 5. Number 4, and we're going to have a band that sounds a lot like it sounds similar, with the Gentle Giant influence coming up soon, but The Tea Party, the best Tea Party record for my money, like a lot of people's money. Canadians, 3-piece, you know, Zeppelin with, you know, Zeppelin influence with Jim Morrison type vocals at points. The Edges of Twilight. This is very mystical. The songwriting, the riffs are heavier. It's not as overtly Zeppelin. They go into other territory, but Sister Awake is my favorite The Tea Party song. It's many people's favorite. That's their best song to me. But there's a lot of other songs on here that are good. Let's see. The title, Fire in the Head, Tomorrow Never Knows, Walk With Me, the movement that kind of build on that song. The Bazaar is very mystical, Middle Eastern. Correspondence is a piano ballad, it's great. Does It Tear You Apart, My Love? You know, you keep on hearing, My Love, to tear you apart. The Badgers, it's an instrumental acoustic piece. Silence is very twangy, the line, with her beauty, with her eyes. Turn the lamp down, it builds when that twangy guitar riff. Turn the lamp down low. Crazy climax on that song. Drawing Down the Moon, it's a heavy blues rock, which leads to this sad, soaring, wailing section. Stay with me, please believe. He repeats that a few different times, but if you've never heard The Tea Party and you like prog, this is the one to hear. I mean, there's other records they made that are great, but this is still their best record for me. That's why it's number 4. Alright, so number 3, we see the debut album from, of course, the prog favorite, Spock's Beard, The Light, which people think they did better records, and I kind of think so, but I have a hard time really like ranking the Neil Morse albums that much over the others. Every one of them is about equal. And the Light might be the best song. I mean, The Great Nothing's fantastic, the Kevin Gilbert influence included, but The Light actually I think might be slightly more memorable. I mean, it's like splitting hairs, but the Senior Velasco part is just so, you know, there's so many memorable moments on that epic. My name is Senior Velasco, I drink my milk with Tabasco, got nowhere to go. Don't ever want to die. The Man in the Mount section is great. I mean, it's The Light, you know, if you like modern prog, you probably like this, unless you have a problem with Neil's voice or something. Even though it doesn't have Rio, but it does have the services of Kevin Gilbert doing engineering on some of this. Go the Way You Go, of course, was sort of the song they got maybe most well-known for in the early days. Catchy, I always think of that riff. I think of like railroad tracks and stuff when I think of that. Go the way, that jam in the middle. It kind of like birthed Spock's Beard, the Go the Way You Go. And then The Water and On the Edge. The Water, of course, has the swearing lyrics and everything like that. You know, Jeff from Dr. Spin, he did a whole thing on Spock's Beard's albums. He's doing a series, and he did the thing on the line. He did the thing on The Water, and On the Edge is pretty good. So I mean, it's hard to fault this. I mean, it's splitting hairs, but if push comes to shove, the songwriting and the melodies, the moments are so good. It has to go this high. Number 4. Number 3 rather. Number 2. Well, it's kind of obvious. You know in my taste. We have Afraid of Sunlight from Marillion. You know, the title track is fantastic. It's like less is more. It's like a perfectly progressive, mid-level progressive rock track. And King, of course, Ian's doing his Neil Peart impersonation at the end of that. I love Beautiful. It's a great poppy ballad. I've grown to love Cannibal Surf Babe. I didn't like it for a while. Gazpacho's great. Out of This World. I know some people don't love some of the songs on this. Beyond You and Out of This. I still love this, and it became a 5-star record. And I have a bias because they're my favorite band. It followed Brave. I mean, there's a big gap between this and Brave, but they're still both perfect records to me. So, of course, Afraid of Sunrise, too, which is kind of underrated. You know, you only hear them play that live only when they played the full album at those weekends. So, and of course, number 1, I did like whatever it was, about 17 videos on it a few months ago. We got Kevin Gilbert's Thud. I mean, if I had my favorite tracks on here, I don't know. I mean, Goodness Gracious, I guess, and Shadow Self, you know, and Shrug, I guess, because it's a derivative, derived from Because of You. Joytown is like my favorite Kevin Gilbert lyric song. You know, it's a perfect album. It's a perfect singer-songwriter album. It's also a perfectly layered album with so much stuff to uncover and unpack, as I spent many hours, you know, earlier this year. So, Kevin Gilbert's Thud, number 1. So, that's it for the Epic 1995 list. I don't know if all these lists will be this epic. I don't know. I may have to split this into 2 or something. But thank you for watching. I'm going to do a review of... I may be doing a review of the new Ours album, even though it wasn't really officially released till next year. But they have an album called Rockets for Glare that is now not available. It was available for a week. That and then the Radicant thing. And then next week I should be doing the anniversaries. But thank you for watching again, and we'll see you next time.